But Steph, you said about we can collect all this stuff, but then you started making some points about the quality of it, the cleanliness of that data, the usefulness of that data. And it just got me to thinking that such is the kind of thirst and hunger for data at the moment, particularly from leaders of organizations in inverted commas. Is there sometimes a bit of a challenge where you've got people that are really, maybe they've been to a conference where they've seen that paper that Yodit's mentioned and they go, right, particulates are the most important thing now. I'm going to go to Steph's office and find if I can get some particulate data. And you kind of want to almost cool your jets because we're not quite ready yet. So how do because I guess you really want to take that opportunity to have that conversation, but sitting there going, we're not quite ready to do it. How do you manage that kind of balance?
Stakeholder engagement. That's it. I just wanted to go back to the point Ian made about taking data into the boardroom and expecting it to do more than perhaps to have more of an impact than perhaps it can. I want to take it back to the people that can't get the data. So the FMs that can't get the business case together to get people to realize how important the data is. So that's the first stumbling block. And then to have the data is really useful. I completely agree with what you're saying, trying to pull people back. And I had some feedback just the other day, and I'm arranging a meeting to speak to this person because they want this data and they want it now, but they don't realize that we may have it, but it doesn't tell us anything at the moment.
Right.
Or is it accurate? So with the new bill, that's the transition that's happened with COVID and data that perhaps you didn't use previously, that you've had at your fingertips. You're now trying to bring them in to verify them and to look at them as a collective.
Yeah.
With the new building, yes, we've got lots of different tech in there. I'm very excited about it. There's also a work that we've done with the property insights team because I want to see the data as a collective. So I want to see the CAFM system, and I want to see the electricity usage, and I want to see the lighting system, and I want to see the heat maps, and I want to see it on one thing. So we can say, okay, yes, all of the meeting rooms are always in use. Oh, actually, there's only one person in each room because we've got the people counters as well. Or one of our very clever people has managed to ascertain how many people were in the room down to the CO2 sensors. So it's all of that different collective information that paints a bigger picture. Whereas if you just look at the meeting room usage, it says you need more meeting rooms.
Right.
If you then look at it with the other data, you actually say, no, we don't need more meeting rooms. We need a step change and people need to stop using them as offices. Or we need a lot of smaller rooms that people can just jump into as a two-person. Really simple stuff. But if you just look at that one, that meeting room's in use, it doesn't really tell you anything.
What I find really interesting, that it always makes me think, stuff like this always makes me think of Del Boy Trotter and him. Yeah, there's a line that he says in one of the episodes where he says, what can't speak can't lie. And I guess that's true in a sense if you go and look at a situation and observe it, but actually what we are saying is sometimes it can, because if it's not lying, it's certainly masking a truth because it's quite a blunt bit of data. And actually what's really important around these data points, it's not to do away with these data points, it's context, right? Because who was I speaking to recently? I was speaking to an organization and they were getting sort of fairly blunt scores from user experience surveys saying, I'm not happy with the meeting rooms. And they were sort of ticking, yeah, I'm not happy with that meeting room. And that's the kind of tools that we've got at the moment, that kind of rate this out of however many, away from the stuff that your team's doing, Yodit, which is kind of atmospheric. And I'm using that as a very loose term, but yeah, I can see what is happening here because a body just walked past me or this temperature's been registered. But that kind of experiential data that you're talking about, Steph, because that's the stuff that's going to end up in your inbox. That's the stuff that's going to end up in the boardroom, away from maybe sort of financial stuff. But it was sort of saying that meeting rooms are, we're not satisfied with them. But then the other data said, well, they're being used all the time. So you're sitting there going, well, these two things don't stack up. And then you find out, like you said, it's because the person in the open plan office has got nowhere to use their telephone. So they go and sit in the meeting room, and that's not what they're for. So there's kind of like this level that we tend to operate at, which is very high level and very blunt data. But actually there's a whole body of insight underneath it that we're not really tapping into at scale. You can walk around and see this or talk to a few people, but you can't do it at scale, right?
Absolutely. And going back to the other point that you made about, you quite often will do a big change. So it will be a refit, a refurbishment. That's when the new tech comes in. Yes, and you do change a lot, but with the new technology that's out there, or should I say the technology that's been around for a while that's now being embraced, you can get a bigger picture. So we've got lots of different settings, lots of different furniture, and that's the people counters are going to tell us which areas people are using the most. It's also going to tell us how long they're staying in that space as well. So it's not just that it's footfall. It's like, well, actually, they're going to sit down there, they get some work done, they like that. Maybe only 20% of it's used, but it's still well used, as opposed to somebody going, that space is never used. And you can't verify that, and you can't show that. And also, there's an aspect of being a little bit frightened of end users having data, because especially in this company, we have a lot of very clever people.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, very informed audience, isn't it?
Absolutely. And they want to know everything, and then they want to interrogate it. So there's that nervousness around it. But actually, when you've got this big floor plate that's showing people the temperatures in different spaces, no longer do I need to say, well, I'm really sorry, your desk is too cold, we'll do something about that. I can say, well, yes, this area is cooler than this area. From the heat maps, perhaps, depending on what temperature you prefer, you could choose to sit in that space.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, it's almost more data, more problems in a sense, isn't it? Because like, it's that kind of little bit of knowledge is a bit dangerous.